everybody. This is Bill Knauer, and you're listening to Author2Author, where we talk about writing and life, because what it takes to write the book you want to write is also what it takes to lead the life you want to lead. That is true. Something a little different today. I interviewed two people, co-authors, a married couple, wrote a book together. Oh my God. That's like driving across country, but they did it, and they did it successfully. And this was their debut novel. We got to talk about it. It's John and J.L Yarrow. John's a lifelong Texan, and he dreams as big as he writes, and Leanne is her husband's collaborative partner. Their fascination with what could be imbues the couple's storytelling with fast-paced, futuristic worlds in which witty, compelling characters struggle for an enduring humanity. John's background includes degrees in English education and an MS in cognitive systems. He honed his skills in the Creation Factory Writers Workshop, adapted a novella for National Public Radio, and published articles in educational and technology journals. Leanne draws from her careers in education and program development to help bring fresh insights, incredible imagery, and clarifying details to their work. Future's Dark Past is their debut novel, and like I said, it's a lot of fun talking to them. It's a unique kind of conversation, how they work together, how they came to it. Different. It's really cool. And hey, if they can do it, why can't we all? Why can't we all work together like John and Leanne? Anyway, here's our conversation. Hope you enjoy it. All right. Well, we have got John and J.L Yarrow, two authors, one book. How are you both doing?
Great.
We're doing great. Appreciate having us on your show.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad to have you on. We're all three of us separated variously. Leanne's down in Missouri. John, are you still in Texas at the moment, or are you? All right.
I'm in Texas.
All right. But I'm here in Seattle. But you are the recent proud parents of a bouncing baby book. This came out March 14th, you said, so it's been out about a month. How are you feeling? How are you doing? How do you like it?
Pretty excited.
So far, so good. It's been really busy. You know, a lot of the pre-launch and book signings and marketing that go on along with the publisher that we've been involved in. So sales have been doing well, and it's slowly picking up, and we're excited.
All right, good. So as I said, you're both authors of it. I've known a few people who have co-written books. In fact, I've got another interview in a month or so with another pair of women here in Seattle who've done that, but it's pretty unusual. It's not unusual in the world of screenplays. It's very, very common, in fact, most common, but not with books. So you are not just co-authors, but you are married, correct? Am I? Still, okay. Even after writing a book.
After all that.
That's right.
That's pretty good.
That's our line.
So who wants to take this on? Whose idea was it to write a book together? It was John's.
I'll take that on. So actually, I started writing the book, and I've been writing a long time. I took a long break to when Lee and I raised our three children, and then when my son got his driver's license, I suddenly found free time again. I started writing again. Okay. And I was pretty much through the first draft, and she asked, are you any good at this? I said, well, I think so. I'd entered a couple contests at Chanticleer and, did well in those. And so she started helping to edit, and the more she worked at it, the better she got. And then she started doing content management and devil's advocate and talking about scenes and characters and helping to really, especially the female characters, helping to really flesh them out. And so we just kind of started tag teaming. I write the original draft, and then she helps craft it from there. So I say I'm the chief storyteller, and she's the chief content manager.
Interesting. So Leanne, was he when you first met him? You've raised three kids. You've known each other a while, I guess. Yeah, I'm not gonna do the math, but I know it's probably been a while. Was he scribbling away when you guys first met, or was this a secret that he kept from you?
No, he has always written. He had a novel under his belt when we met. And
you say a novel, and he had written one, or he had published it? No judgment either way. I'm just curious.
Yeah, he wasn't published, but he
Okay.
had a complete novel under his belt,
Okay.
and it was good. And then he wrote until we had kids, and the kids got old enough to get active, and then it took a back burner at that point because we were so involved with them.
Yeah.
But he has always he's super creative and has these huge ideas. He's a very big story person, um, and very into sci-fi and fantasy and all of that. That is not my genre.
No.
The world building I did was more Little House on the Prairie, Bonanza, and the Wild Wild West. So
Right. Right.
that was kind of my thing, and I think we both have some pretty strong creative streaks, but I was always the proofreader and devil's advocate forever until
Until you
he picked
joined
this
teams.
back up.
How did you, so Leanne, how did your creative streak express itself prior to becoming his content manager?
Really in my jobs, I was an elementary teacher, and then later I've done program development for people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And with that, you're working on keeping people active and do meaningful, purposeful activities, and did a lot of training with a lot of OT and PT and nursing students. And so that was a great way to express, creativity, work with a lot of vets. And
yeah, and I see that's very interesting to me. I have to agree. When we think of creativity, we tend to think of songs and stories and paintings, but I totally agree that the creativity necessary to work with the kind of people you're describing, I've had to do a bit of that myself, and it definitely, you have to think outside the box, don't you? You have to think different.
Inside the box and outside the box.
I like it. I'm really pleased that you see it as creative, because in fact it is. Well, my philosophy is that it's all creative. This whole project we call life is creative. John, no, so you're writing as a young man. You're writing. Were you writing in like high school and in adolescence? And
I wrote a little bit in high school, but I really took off in college. I was living in a garage apartment, and my TV broke, so I was reading a lot of books, and I was reading Conan the Barbarian by Robert E. Howard, and I thought, I can do this. And so that actually gave me an avenue to, try and work. And then I had a professor who's a mentor at college who encouraged me. And so it just kind of took off from there.
That's great. And so, but you chose not to make it your profession coming out of college. Why not? Why not writing?
I was an educator, and I started teaching, and I really enjoyed doing that. Plus, back then it was really hard to find someone to publish your book or an agent, because you had to print it off and send it off, and wait 6 months for somebody to come back, and it took a long time.
You were an impatient man. Took too long, so you stopped writing. And so you're a teacher too. Oh, you're both teachers. What grade were you teaching?
I taught junior high.
You poor man. Okay, so you did that. Both of you, good. My sister's a teacher. I teach. I once tried teaching high school students writing, and I thought I will never, ever, 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 ever do this again. But someone's got to do it. It just won't be me. I want people to pay for it, and then to be adults and come to my little workshop. Okay, another story. So what did the writer do? Because when a writer's got to write, what did he do when he wasn't writing? Did you get itchy? Did you get annoyed, or would you just say it's just not the time? I'm going to put my energy elsewhere, John.
I think that's what I did. I was a teacher and a coach, and my kids were active in sports. And so when you have three kids doing, sports and church and brownies and Cub Scouts, and your day's full by the time you're done with that.
I'm familiar. Okay, so you just said, and so you were okay with it. You weren't bitter. You weren't grumpy. You weren't coming to Leanne at night saying, "Leanne, this is not working. I must write. I'm going to go crazy." No, he was just like, he was okay with it.
He also went back and got his master's in cognitive systems, and became, through the years, he's a cloud management expert at this point. So he's really, learned so much in that realm, and it really fed a lot of that creativity because he's such a forward thinker. He had a book that he wrote right before we had kids. Not the first book, but another one that I remember so vividly reading, going, this is quite the imagination.
It was
Like kind of
fiction,
making fun of him. Like this
right?
is just never going to happen. I don't even a lot of genetics engineering and a lot of AI and things like that. And it's all happened. All of it.
John, you prophet.
Uh,
You
yeah,
prophet. You saw it
I
coming.
He
I
did.
predicted CRISPR. Yes,
He
What
did.
what is CRISPR? I don't know
genetic.
what CRISPR is.
It's a genetic tool for splicing genes. So they use that a lot, in,
You
especially
predicted
in
it.
agriculture. And now they're doing it. It's the RNA thing that they're doing, right?
Well, what's his name? Bear. Greg Bear. The great Greg. I believe he's passed away now, but Greg Bear told me during our conversation that science fiction is where science goes to dream. And so your little science mind went and dreamt that. Okay, so time goes by and kids grow up, get out of the house, get out of the house. They do, finally. That's
I
great.
start writing again.
And you start writing. Now, Leanne, when he started writing again, what did you think? Oh, that's nice. What did you think? Were you glad? Were you indifferent? Was it just you were too busy to care? What did you think?
No, I support him in that. It made him really happy.
Yeah.
And then when I started asking, "Are you any good at this?" Because sci-fi isn't.
What a terrible question, but it's okay. It's a natural question. But wait, I'm just going to say to all the spouses out there, do not ask that question. It's the wrong question. I understand it, but if you never thought, don't ask that question. But it's okay. You asked it. Yeah. What could you do?
I did, and it sort of prodded him on. He started
all right.
doing these. He's like, "Well, I think so, but again, it's not my genre." So
yeah.
So then he starts winning these things and
winning contests and stuff.
Right. And we start going to conferences, and I'm sitting in on classes, and we're listening to panels, and I might not know sci-fi, but I know a good story, and I know how there's a lot of psychology in my jobs, and I know how that translates to a book, and then we had to have the conversation about, are you writing this for you and for us, or are you writing this to try to sell it? Because that's very different. And so it just evolved from there.
Yeah. And well, that's a good question, John. Were you writing it to publish it, or were you writing it with the concept of publishing it, or were you really first thinking, I'll show it to my kids who will not care about it, but I will show it to them anyway? What was your initial ambition? Did you even think that far ahead?
I think, most writers who are writing novels, their dream is to have it published, right?
Sure.
It's not an essay or a memoir or a journal that you're keeping. It's something that you want to share with other people. It's your idea, your story that you would like for other people to read and experience. So I was excited about that.
Okay. And so, but it's one thing to, my wife published a book, and I gave her a suggestion for that book that actually helped it quite a bit, but I didn't put my name on it. There wasn't any of that. She wrote it. But talk to me about the transition when you decided Leanne wasn't just someone you were bouncing, because a lot of people bounce their work off their spouses, their loved ones. A lot of people do that, but it's another thing when it becomes a partnership. So talk to me about that transition. Leanne, were you open to it? Let's start with when did you become open to more than just reading them and giving a little feedback?
Again, everything has been a big evolution. I had to become okay with giving honest feedback, because I could read it and go, I think you've got a great idea here, but ... and it could be that he had things going on in his mind that he thought it was on the page, but you can't read his mind, so I needed more, or things like that started coming up. So we had a lot of discussions. I had to get to the point where I could redline a chapter and not get an ulcer over it, because I didn't want to hurt him,
Oh, look at it. You got to be pretty. You can't, because here's the thing. When I edit my work, I don't have my feelings in mind. I just take something out. I don't like it, I take it out. I don't like it, I take it out. But something else in my editor, that's fine. She doesn't care about me in that way. Mm-hmm. But it's a spouse. You got to go to bed together. So, John, what about you? You at first, it's one thing to have someone just bounce work off. When did you start thinking, I'd like to work with her in a deeper way beyond just bouncing ideas off?
When you do life together and you've raised kids and you're spending a lot of time together, and you just if they're embracing your dream, why not let them be a part of it, right? And I
Right.
felt very blessed that my wife wanted to help in my dream to become an author, right? And it
Yeah.
became such a team effort that it just made sense to put both of our names on the book.
That is great. And so how did she, how, do you think you could have written it without her? Sorry, Leanne. This is just, I mean, can you picture doing it at this point, or does it not make any sense to you without her input?
Um, you know, I, I want to feel like I could do it by myself, but on the
Right.
flip side, if it's an enjoyable experience and it's a partnership that, makes sense, then why not, right? And
Yeah.
as you know, we're not young chickens, so as we're moving on into retirement, it's going to be nice to have something that we can do together. A lot of people grow apart.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
actually closer together because of this, and so that's a blessing.
That's true. Because raising a kid becomes a creative endeavor between, if both parents are involved in it, it can become this whole,
Yes.
how do you thinking about it, talking about it, what should we do? And so now you have a new child to raise, which is writing. And so how do you think, John, it got better after you started working with her? Can you recognize like where it really improved?
I think it really improved with the content as it flows, right?
You mean from
A lot of
sentence to
times,
sentence kind of thing?
sentence to sentence. A lot of times, it's concept to concept within the chapter. The female characters are much stronger thanks to her input that, would not have been from my point of view.
Right.
So, and then, the other flip point is in not knowing science fiction. There were a lot of times she would ask questions and I go, oh, that's in my mind, not on the page.
That's
And so,
right. That's right.
yeah. So,
That's interesting. You're like living with an editor. The best thing an editor can do, I think, is ask questions. But
yeah.
Leanne, you were something more than a editor, because the protagonist is a woman in this book. And what, I don't know, maybe it was just very subtle, but how did you make the female character more like a female? What did you do that altered a little bit, that made it feel more real to you?
Well, I'm sorry, I've got a move here.
Okay.
I think that I brought different things to the table. Like, you have to think about people that are in movies, for instance, strong females. I am so
Okay.
sorry.
That's all right.
That are in movies. And then you draw out the human aspect of that. And
Okay.
relational. I think that what he kind of did the superhero aspect of it, I guess.
Sure.
And what I tried to do was to bring it more to what you would feel like when you're going through something like that.
Just the normal person part of it.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And
Well, not only that,
how
but
is
she
that
would
going to
say,
be relatable to the reader? How will the reader take that in and make that theirs?
Gotcha. And what were you going to say, John?
the other thing is that she would point out a woman would never say that or
Right.
do that, right?
Yeah.
And so we would
Right.
then rework it to where it would make sense, right? So,
Right. Well, that's good.
A guy looks at it from a guy's point of view,
Sure.
right? So,
well, I can tell you, I have, because of this work I do, I read all kinds of books that I might not normally read, and I've read many male characters where I thought, you might want to check with your boyfriend before you wrote that. But what are you going to do? It can cut both ways for sure. It can cut both ways.
Yeah, it does.
So, all right. So here's to Leanne, because it's interesting. This is your first published book, and by the way, congratulations. I hope you're really proud. You should be.
Thank you.
Both be
We're
proud.
excited. Yes.
And simple stories. I love simple stories, but this isn't one of those. This is not one of those. This is a big, and the writer in me is like, what a hairy tarantula they have created. But as you said, Leanne, you said that John likes to think in these big concepts. Sometimes the person who thinks in big concepts knows how to hold them in their head. Mm-hmm. Did you have to develop, it's almost like playing chess in a way, develop the sort of muscle to be able to hold the story in your mind and make sense of it?
Mm-hmm. It took me a while. There's so many characters. This is not a story that, you have a starting point and you have a stopping point. This is a lot of different characters, a lot of different time frames.
Time
And
travel on top of
exactly,
which is a very tricky thing to deal with.
exactly, because you're mentally ticking off the boxes. Does this make sense in this character
Yes.
in this time period?
Right.
And technology changes in the different jumps and all of that. So it took me a while to get used to that. And not only is it just in this book, he would leave something kind of open and I'd be questioning that. And then he'd say, oh, that's in book 3. Well, so I know, I know the arc, but I don't know all of these details that are in book 2 and book 3. So you have to make it where the reader can accept that ambiguity
Yeah.
and still want to go on.
So do you guys sit around just like talk, like when you sometimes just start talking about the story just in your spare time, or do you specifically say, okay, now we got to work on it? Or is it sort of always floating around as a potential topic of conversation?
Both. I'd say both.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you sit around
like walks.
On walks. Oh yeah, that's good. And so John, because this was initially your idea, you obviously ideas must be coming to you, and you tell her, but how often, Leanne, do you get an idea and bring it, like not just smoothing things out, but an actual story idea? Do you get those and bring them to him?
I clarify ideas, I guess is what you would say. He sees that big picture and then I get into the weeds. I'm just so much more detail oriented.
Yeah.
And so I will spend a lot of time fleshing something out, or I'll say, he reacted this way in the storyline, but I wonder about this.
Yeah.
Thinking he would pick it up and go with it. But then he'll say, we'll write it. So then he gets to redline me.
Oh, it goes the other way too.
Yes.
It does.
Now, but all right. So one time I published a piece. I just published a piece in this magazine for the first time, and the editor had some problem with how to transition from the beginning to the middle. And so he just stuck a sentence of his own in there. And I will tell you, it was a perfectly good sentence, but I would have never, ever written it that way. And to me, it stuck out. Fine sentence, but never in my voice. So do you have to sort of model, or is the voice that has the book's voice become a combination of the two of you?
I think we've worked hard to do that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say, John?
What do you think?
Yeah, she's spent a lot of time in the story. She's basically touched every word. So she's learned the style.
Yeah.
But there are times where I'll go, no, that would never happen.
Oh, okay.
That doesn't
Story-wise.
work. And then we work through it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a give and take kind of, partnership. So
okay.
I don't have that history to draw from in sci-fi terms.
Yeah.
Like I'm like questioning him on something got spaced and I have no idea what that means, or he said, oh, every sci-fi person will understand that. And I have no idea. And we've had a lot of incidences like that,
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got to learn the vernacular.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. So like I said, the book published on the 14th. So it's been about a month now. Have you, everyone does these things differently. Have you done some events? Have you done any of that?
Yeah.
We did a large book signing, initial event that was a private for, friends, family, business acquaintances. And our first book signing at Barnes & Noble is on April 28th. And then we have another one at Half Price Books. And we've several magazine interviews lined up. And as we're just starting to get started with all that.
Slow build. Because I want to know, you write the thing, you're in your little 2-person cocoon that is the writing of the book, but then you publish it, and now the world is getting to read it and give their feedback. And how has that been, such as it is?
Well, we've got quite a bit of feedback on Amazon, and it's all been very positive. And a lot of people, especially acquaintances, picked up the book because they know us and, they weren't expecting much. And then, I get emails saying, hey, I had to take a day off work to finish it. Right.
Yes.
So there's things like that going on. And where people like, I was going to thumb through it just so I said I looked at it. and I got
Right.
caught up and couldn't put it down.
Oh, see,
So
now that's a victory. If nice
yeah,
friends just being nice, and then they actually end up
yeah,
liking it.
yeah.
How
So
surprising. That's great. Was that
yeah,
gratifying?
it
Very,
was. It was. It's nice to have
very.
people like your stories. So
Right. Well,
and
now begins the conversation, because it becomes a kind of interesting conversation. I don't know, you haven't had a chance to experience this yet, but one of the cool things about being an author, and one of the difficult things for some people, I don't suspect for you, but when the book is, because you worked on it together, but when you publish a book, it really is not yours anymore. It now belongs to whoever picks it up. It's
yeah.
their imagination, and you kind of have to get comfortable with other people having a kind of ownership of it, if that makes sense, because you can't control what they think or
That was
say.
even that was even true with our narrator. His view of what the book should be and how it should sound, compared to what we thought was a little different. And it turned out actually really good. So
Good. That is key. So, Leanne, you may not have known this, but in fiction, the author doesn't really know what's going to happen. The characters do, and woe betide the author who thinks they know better than their characters. The characters should say and do. You can outline your brains out, but at some point, I hope for every author, they will do something you did not expect, and it sounds like that happened.
yeah, it did. It
Yeah.
did.
We worked very hard to try to set it up where people could, read that and interpret it as they saw it. And we've heard so many times how it reads like a movie, and I could just see all of this happening.
Yeah.
And so that tells us that we had enough out there, but not too much.
Good. Good.
Right.
Good. All right.
I will say one other thing. I'm perfectly fine with putting the book down and moving on. My wife, she looks at it and she wants to start editing it again. It's
To
like,
this
no,
day,
she gets frustrated. Said, no, that ship has sailed, honey.
That's
You
right.
can't
That's
touch
right.
that.
But that's good. That's the right attitude. Bring that energy to book 2. Yeah, you said there's more where this came from.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have a novella that'll come out in September. That's between book 1 and 2. It's part
Okay.
of the series, and then book 2 will come out next February, March, and then another novella the next summer, and then the final book the
My
year
word.
after.
Get busy. Don't talk to me. Just get writing. You two, you got a lot to do. That's fantastic. All right. Well, this is great. Congratulations both on writing something together. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I'm not interested in doing it. I'm a solo sailor, but it's great. You guys are lovely. It's so nice that you're creating this together. I'm not quite through with you. I got 2 different last questions for each of you. I'm going to start with you, John. Just in general, this is a question I ask all my authors, but if all the writing you've done in your life is you started this crazy plan years ago, all that writing has taught you anything has taught you what?
To see gray. I was very much an engineer, and so learning to see gray was a big part of that process, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Engineer and the teacher. The teacher bring the heart. The engineer brings the planning. This is good. So, Leanne, my question to you is, and I don't mean about writing specifically, but if writing this book with John has taught you anything, and it doesn't have to be about writing, but anything at all, it's taught you what?
To keep at it, and you can dream big and you can do it. You just have to keep at it.
That's right. That is an excellent lesson. It is an excellent one. We all have to learn it. John, J.L., John, and Leanne Yarrow, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank
you.
you.
We really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Dream big, keep at it. Dream big and keep at it. Why not? Why not? It's what you got to do. It's what you got to do, people. Listen, I want to thank my producer, R.J. Jeffries, as always. Thank you, my friend. And I want to thank all of you for listening in. Love sharing these conversations. Love having them. Love sharing them. And I'm glad I get to do that. So to all of you out there, until we have our next conversation, just go out there into the world, into the big wide world, and find something you love to do and do it.